Hi, I'm Mark with Perfect Paver Company, and I wanted to show you a little whiteboard drawing, a diagram showing how drainage, an example of how drainage can affect the performance of your paver and affect polymeric sand. So what I have here is I have kind of a side profile of the house, side profile of a paver system. Down here I have a gravel base, could be gravel, could be concrete. They're both kind of the same in this aspect. But what's interesting about the gravel base, when the installer installed it, he didn't install this gravel base so that it had slope away, causing the water to hit it and go out. He put what I like to call bird baths in the patio. And in addition to bird baths, he actually has the gravel base sloping here. He was kind of a lazy contractor. He didn't want to take the time and get the gravel base too perfect, because he said, I'll just make up for it in the drainage sand layer. I'll put that a little thicker here and thinner there and thicker there. And I'll give the appearance on the surface that the pavers have a nice, perfect slope to them. But what he doesn't understand, and what you may not understand until now, is that underneath of your pavers, it's as important to address the drainage as it is on top of your pavers. So here, this represents rain, for example. Rain's coming down, and a percentage of the water is going to go through the pavers regardless of whether or not you have slope on the surface. This scenario has slope, a percentage of the water still going down through the joints, and as it gets down, it's hitting these little pockets, these little bird baths, as I like to call them, and it's accumulating. It's accumulating there, it's accumulating in this one. The water's going down the perimeter, maybe there's lawn or a mulch bed here, it's hitting that, and it's bringing it down in. Now you have this trapped moisture that's constantly keeping the pavers wet from the underside. And when you keep the pavers wet from the underside, it's going to create the perfect conditions for mold, algae, weeds, all of those things to grow into the joints. Weeds need a damp environment to germinate and thrive. In addition to that, when your pavers are always damp and your sand joints always damp, airborne debris, airborne dust, mulch, leaf clippings, all of that type of stuff is going to stick to the surface. Think about like a wet paper towel. If you get it damp, put it down into the dirt and pull it back up, it's going to have dirt on it. If it's dry, it wouldn't have pulled that dirt back up. So you're going to have issues with weeds, you're going to have issues with dirty pavers, moldy looking pavers, your sand joints aren't going to look clean. And in addition to that, your polymeric sand is going to likely fail in these areas. Polymeric sand must dry out. It can get wet. It's okay to get wet so long as it dries out after that wet period of time. It rains, it gets wet, and then a properly installed patio will drain all of that water out, allowing that joint to dry out when the sun comes back out, and then it can get wet again. If it's always wet, in this scenario, there's always water present, it's always keeping that joint wet, that joint's going to fail. Now, as a perfect paver, obviously you can tell there's no way for us to know that this is going on when we show up to do a project. However, there could be some signs. You could see areas where water is holding and stuff like that, or where joints maybe look exceptionally dark or damp or dirty, and that could be an indicator. But unfortunately, there's no way of really knowing if a patio was installed this way. So it's so important when you're installing patios to address surface drainage, address subsurface drainage, and it will lead to a patio that lasts longer. It will lead to a patio that looks cleaner. And one additional thing, if you're in a freeze thaw cycle, you're holding water here. In the winter, that water is going to expand and contract. It's going to push up as it expands, and your pavers are going to be lifted. It's going to result in the joint cracking in that area. So a whole slew of different issues can happen by not having a properly sloped gravel base or concrete base beneath your pavers. Again, Mark with Perfect Paver Company. I hope that was a great explanation, and if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer them. Have a great day.